Yeah, what I want to talk about is kind of what we want to bring to the listening audience is what we've been talking about for this entire week, and that is, of course, the Federal Reserve is increasing interest rates
Yeah.
because they want to slow down the inflationary factor. The question is, how much higher will they go after this, after the jump in this week?
Right.
And,
Like we just had an interest rate change this week. And the
right.
question is this it? Is there more? And we've been talking in the office, when does the inflation peak? When does
Right.
interest rates have to stop going up? And we don't know. I mean, nobody knows that exactly. But I think it's a useful conversation to be keeping our eyes on the horizon to say what's coming next.
Right. And how does it affect the holdings? I mean, obviously bonds are coming under pressure because interest rates are rising. We've shortened the duration of bonds, but as we tell our clients, just hold tight because bonds will heal. They automatically move towards maturity. And so you'll get paid off the full principal and you'll receive the interest during the time. But it does represent a percentage of the market value. The market value adjusts up and down, and we've seen that within portfolios. But when you take the bonds out of it, the equities that we've selected have actually held up pretty well.
Yeah.
Because we've moved more to value, right?
Right. We moved to value, and we're having bonds that were harmed, the most of this year, but they'll recover. You guys are listening to Retirement Unlimited, the show where we talk about life's hard financial questions to help you make sense of the world and make smart decisions with your money. Randy and I are both certified financial planners. I'm also a California licensed attorney. We work together at Tricor Advisors, where we help our clients just get excited about their finances. I mean, that's a hard thing to say, to get excited about finances, but I mean, when you lay out someone's future, it goes from a burden and a struggle to being exciting, and that's what we do.
This year it's been a lot of adjustments. People some were prepared. Some people panicked, went to cash. Some people stayed in they kind of put their pedal to the metal, so to speak, and they've stayed in, what I call the growth stocks.
Yeah.
And they've been hit harder. I mean, I think the rebalancing was really important to have that. But I look at, we've had discussion in our office, and we do it all the time. We have it with, just besides you and I, we have it with other key individuals. And there's kind of a difference of opinion on whether or not we're going to have a hard landing or a soft landing.
Yeah. And so as a lot of people know, a hard landing is when the Fed goes too far and the economy just comes down, crash into a recession. And then the idea of a soft landing is that the Fed will get it right. They'll taper interest rates, or they'll increase interest rates, bring down the economy just to the right spot. And then they'll change everything and we'll take off again. And the economy will be healthy. I mean, to be candid, we've never had a soft landing.
Right.
The Fed has never done it. And so the idea that to say, yep, we're in store for a soft landing is harder. But at the same time, we're different. We're different than we've ever been.
Right.
We have unemployment rates that are better than we've ever had. We have home equity that is better. We have existing savings.
In fact, a fun fact, I was looking at charts, and they were trying to compare what the risk is to real estate, because real estate's gone up dramatically. But one of the key factors is the mortgage. In other words, the loan to value ratio. What percentage of the equity is encumbered?
Like what percentage of my home do I own, and how much is it has a mortgage?
Correct. So that loan to value ratio is what we refer to that as. But the loan to value ratio is at the lowest level since about 1955. So that means that most homeowners across the board, and that's taking into account those people that own their home free and clear, and those people who just bought a home, let's say within the last year, is actually at a very, very low level. So that means the real estate value should hold up really well, even as we move into a recession.
Yeah, so they're sitting on equity. So you're saying a lot of people are sitting on equity. That's probably different from 2008, 2009, where I feel like the lending, like the home equity line of credits, the HELOCs, and the second mortgages were just keeping pace with everybody. So if any dip in home prices would cause people to go underwater in their homes.
Right.
Whereas it sounds like what you're saying, compared to the 1950s to now, we're in the best spot of having money sitting in our houses, in our homes, that's not leveraged.
Yeah, and the other thing too is the amount of money that households have. And we're sitting, typically there's about $1 trillion of excess savings or money. That's across all households across the United States. Right now, we're sitting on almost $2 trillion. And so there's a lot of excess liquidity, and that's going to go a long way to stabilize. They're going to continue to buy things, I guess.
Yeah, well, I wonder how that feels for households. There's some households who are struggling. Absolutely.
Sure.
Prices have gone up. We were just talking this last week that my wife and I were looking at buying lunch meat, and it was notably higher than it had been before. It's like, well, I guess we'll skip it. Like we'll opt to something different.
Right.
But I wonder how many households are really struggling, and how many of them just feel they have to dip into savings. I imagine there's a lot of folks who don't like the higher prices, don't like higher
savings and or
gas.
credit card, right?
Oh, sure. They either dip into savings or they have credit cards to kind of have that available credit. I mean, credit cards, they come back, right? That debt comes back the next month. But I wonder, as people who are listening and as clients that we talk to, how many of them, what they're feeling. Because I know a lot of conversations I've been having, they feel the pump,
Yeah.
the gas pump. They feel those prices. They feel the food increases. But I don't know that very many of our clients, at least, are struggling in the sense they don't have the money to do it. They just didn't want to spend money on that.
Well, I think it's sticker shock. I mean, when you walked into the grocery store, I did the same thing. When I walked in and I saw, cottage cheese, and I saw cottage cheese jump, and I compared that to the store brand,
Yeah.
Versus a name brand, and I went, oh, I think I'll buy the store brand.
Yeah.
And even though I could afford the other, I just felt that sticker shock. It just kind of shocked. It's
Yeah.
like filling up your car with gas.
Right.
A few months ago, that bell went all the way to $100.
Yeah, no, a lot of people are going just past $100, and that's painful
It
when you're
is.
used to saying, okay, I spend 70 on a full tank. Now you're spending over $100. Well, part of what I want to talk about today too is as we take all these ideas of the markets and the recession, and we look at people who are retiring. And last week we spoke about retirement streams of income,
Right.
Social Security, required minimum distributions. And this week we kind of want to talk about how much can you spend.
Right.
There's a number of different metrics that we'll talk through of that impact your life. But the hard part I find is you look online and you get these rules of thumb, and they are
Well, you
so
have these
broad.
calculators, right?
Or calculators. That's right.
So you plug in the numbers, and it says, okay, this is what you can take out. This is what your rate of return. I mean, it's pretty much one and done, and we have trouble with that.
Yeah, and they're drastically wrong. I mean, on a regular basis. So I'll just run through them real quick. But what your health is and what it's
Right.
going to be,
Right.
that's hugely impacting
Mhm.
the timing of retirement. I mean, here, what we look at, anywhere from say 62 to 70 is a given range, and that's a dramatically different. Because you think every year that you continue to work, you're earning more income and you're not spending your existing income. So it's a double swing. So those working years are different. Social Security, when and where, that's always a discussion. Your risk tolerance. Some folks want the money in the bank and they just want to sit there.
Yeah,
And they don't want any risk.
And I think it's important to know that, I mean, as you step into retirement, you're fearful of risk, right?
Yeah.
Because you're not earning, you're not accumulating, you're not putting money back in.
Right. You've cut that working cord and it's tough.
Yeah, and it's a tough conversation with
Yeah.
people to say, no, you can't just put money in the bank and think that you're going to be able to accomplish all your goals. In fact, the ratio, if we look back at it, you have to reduce dramatically the amount of withdrawals that you take out if that's the economic position that you've taken, is that I
Right.
want no risk. For
Right.
example, going
I'm scared,
into
yeah.
CDs or fixed annuities or something like that, you're going to end up with a much lower rate of return
Right.
over your lifetime.
That's right. So we did health, timing, Social Security, risk tolerance, spending over time. Some people want to fill some bucket list items. We
Right.
want to take that big trip. And the last one being what you pass on, kind of bequest. So all those together, we're going to talk through each one of those in a bit. But just as a general thing, we took an example. Someone who's 60 years old today, they have $750,000 in their retirement account.
Right.
That's where they're at. So best case scenario, all these are to the extended version. They work till they're 70. They take Social Security later. They're willing to be aggressive.
Right.
This could put them in a position where they're having $8,731 of income each month in retirement. So just over $8,000.
So, and for most households, if they have no debt,
Yeah, if you've paid off your house,
$8,000 a month is sufficient for
Mhm.
most households.
Yeah,
right?
well, that's right. On the flip side, if they do all these 6 categories we have on the negative side, they're really serious about leaving at least something to their kids. They have poor health. They want to retire now. This brought it all the way down to $2,890 a month. And so think about living
So
on
from
just under
8,000
$3,000.
down to 2,000.
Yep, it's a massive swing, and that's where these calculators. The calculators ask you, what's your interest rate? How much do you think the market's going to return? People don't know.
But we,
You can't. Excuse me. You can't project that.
we
to
talk,
what's going to be.
yeah, we talk a lot about, planning by the numbers. In other words, target. And we have what we call a target rate of return and a required rate of return. And it's not a hard and fast number in the sense that one year you come in and you set the requirements and then it's all done for the rest of your life. It just doesn't work that way.
No, it moves. And we have, and economists we work with, we have projections of what the market has done, what we think it might do. But to put that in a calculator, that someone who's interested in retirement can just bump the number a little bit. Oh, if I get 7.2%, oh, look, everything's going to be
Right.
fine. That's, I think, dangerous. So let's talk about these as we go through. I mean, health, The health category to me is a big one. Healthcare delivery is better than it's ever been.
Right.
As far as health, this is the best time to be alive because we can do better than we've ever done. But it's expensive. And most people I talk with want to age in place, which means at some point,
that cost is going to go up.
Right. They might need some nursing. They need some in-home care, which is great that we can have that. But that's a question. And for some people, it's known. They have a chronic issue they were dealing with. Others, they don't know until they get there. They're looking to retire, and at 80, they may have some concern. So health, is open, but we always want to plan for it. Timing, to me, that's the biggest planning lever, is timing.
Yeah, and I think we have a lot of discussion like on Social Security. When do you take Social Security or not? But you have to realize if you take Social Security at 72 versus at 70.
Or 70, for Social Security.
If you delay your Social Security until 70, your income differential is 77% difference. So
from 62 all the way to 70. Yeah,
it is a huge gap.
Yeah.
So if you start early, you've locked into that lower payout. And then, of course, the response that most people give us, and you and I have been in meetings, well, what happens if I die?
Yep.
And then my response coming back is that most of us are going to live longer than we realize because, going back to your comment, healthcare.
Yep, it's getting better.
Healthcare delivery. And if you're somebody who doesn't have a pre-existing condition, your health is pretty steady, most likely you're going to live well. You can live well past the age that you think you're going to live.
And Social Security, the break, it's different for everyone, but roughly 83 years old is the break even when we do the math for a lot of folks. If you live past that, you're better to delay. Timing and Social Security, those go together. How long do you work? And to me, that's the real planning. And we model for people, this is what happens if you retire at 67. This is what it looks like if you retire at 68, and walk through that. The other one is risk tolerance. And this one is harder, especially in a down economy. Yeah. People who are retiring right now, I feel like they are in a hard moment.
The headlines scare you.
Yeah. And they say, I have this nest egg. I'm watching it go down. I'm seeing, I just want to move to cash. And in the short term, that might feel safe and that might feel secure. But genuinely, this money doesn't all just get used the moment you retire. This money is for 20 years, and to have a 20-year investment horizon means you can weather a number of storms. So we shouldn't put all of it into this more aggressive bucket, but we've had a number of clients. We'll put a portion of it to say this money, this 300,000, you're not going to touch it for at least 10, maybe even 20 years. So let's make it more aggressive and let it grow. So when you go to use it, it's not just matched inflation; it's actually grown to improve your lifestyle.
Yeah, and everybody's bias. It's really interesting when you sit down and talk with somebody. Their political bias, their job bias, their how they see the world. I mean, they bring all that into the conversation, and it's our job to, I suppose, flatten out some of the more sticky parts and say, I understand how you feel, but the realistic aspects are this is what's going to happen over the next several years for you. And if you get too conservative or you get too aggressive, you could have some real disappointments down the road.
Yeah, that's right. And our job is to, I think, inform people,
right?
And give them all the details and advise them what we feel is the best choice for them, but also to let them make their choice.
Right.
We've had clients who say, I hear what you're saying, I understand all that, and I still want to choose this. And that's acceptable if it's still a reasonable thing to choose, but we walk through it. So the other one is spending over time. I think this is a great one. I'm usually, when people's planning comes out well, everything makes sense, you're going to have plenty of money, you've done well. Man, now's the moment. You're both healthy. If it's a married couple, you're both healthy. You have the means. Do some things. Do the things you've been putting off.
Yeah, do it now. Don't wait until you're 80.
Yes.
There's some things that you want to do, and travel is a big part of that. I know personally, travel has become more burdensome for me. Travel is just not fun anymore.
Yeah,
and it seems like I'm hearing that same thing from other people.
Yeah,
so,
at certain ages, and that's a good comment to say. Do it now while you can, because you might not want to later, and you might not be able to later. Of course, you have to make sure you can afford it, but that's a big one. And then the last one is kind of the bequest. The idea that what do you want to pass on? I feel generally phase one of planning is to make sure you're okay. Mm-hmm. Make sure you, as the person who earned the money, you've said it to a number of clients, like no one will appreciate this money as much as you will.
Right.
Like you're sure your kids want it. Sure your kids would appreciate that, your grandkids, but no one worked as hard as you did. No one saved as hard as you did, sacrificed as hard as you did to get this money. So you will appreciate this money more than anyone else. And if there's leftovers at the end, fantastic. But that's my perspective. Other people will say, no, I really want to make sure my kids get X amount of dollars. And that we put into the planning, and that just backs out a little bit of what you can spend in retirement. And it's a good safety net, because people say, unless I need it, I want this. But I think bequest is an interesting one to plan in.
Well, let's take a break right now, because I've got some ideas regarding charitable giving, things like that, based upon cash flows and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So we'll take a break right now.
If you missed part of this episode, you can find the full thing on our website. It's retirementunlimited.com, or you can find us on YouTube under Tricord Advisors.